It was one of those nights when the city lights seemed to shine a little brighter, and the air was thick with anticipation. The concert venue was packed, its walls humming with the electric buzz of thousands of fans. Music was moments away from erupting, but outside the gates stood a boy no older than 12. His face pressed against the metal fence, eyes wide, hope flickering like a flame in the wind. He didn't have a ticket, but he had a dream. Clutching a worn-out photo of the singer in one hand and a handmade poster in the other, the boy looked like someone who didn't belong among the chaos of the roaring crowd. He was too small, too quiet, and too alone. Passers-by barely noticed him, but one man did. Tyrone was a security guard working his third shift that week. Broad-shouldered and steady, he had been hired to keep people out, not let them in. His job was to make sure no one jumped the line, snuck through the gates, or caused trouble. But when he spotted the boy, something tugged at his heart, something deeper than protocol. "Hey, little man," Tyrone called gently, stepping away from the entrance. "You all right?" The boy hesitated. Then, without turning around, he whispered, "I just wanted to see her sing. That's all." "Where's your folks?" Tyrone asked. "Passed away. Last year. My sister was going to bring me, but she had to work 2 shifts today," the boy explained. "We didn't have enough for a ticket anyway." Tyrone nodded slowly, his throat tightening. He had seen a lot during his time on this job. Drunk fans, fake tickets, fights. But this was different. The kid reminded him of himself at that age, struggling, dreaming, scraping by. "What's your name?" Tyrone asked. "Jalen." "Well, Jalen, rules are rules, but sometimes they're meant to bend just a little." Tyrone looked around, made sure the coast was clear. Then, leaning down with a wink, he whispered, "Come on, let's make tonight one to remember." With a huge grin spreading across his face, Jalen followed Tyrone past the barricades. They weaved through side exits and staff paths until they reached a small area near the front where the boy could stand, almost invisible behind the speakers, but with a perfect view of the stage. "Stay right here. Don't move. And don't let anyone see you," Tyrone instructed. Jalen nodded, his heart pounding with excitement. Minutes later, the lights dimmed, and the crowd erupted as the singer, Raina Steele, a powerhouse with a voice that could silence storms, stepped onto the stage. Jalen's eyes welled up with tears. He couldn't believe he was there. Every song felt like it was just for him. Every lyric seemed to tell his story. He clutched the edges of his poster, not even caring that it was wrinkled now. But what Tyrone didn't realize was that Raina had seen them. From her place behind the curtain, moments before going on stage, Raina had noticed Tyrone walking the boy in through the side. She saw the way the kid looked at the stage and the way the guard placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. It happened so quickly that no one else noticed, but she did. The concert ended in a blaze of lights and cheers. Jalen was escorted quietly back out the same way he came. Tyrone gave him a fist bump and said, "Don't tell anyone. Just remember the music, all right?" Jalen nodded. "I will. Thank you." The boy disappeared into the night, still carrying that photo, now folded up safely in his pocket. The next morning, Raina called an emergency meeting with her team. "There was a boy last night. He didn't have a pass, but someone helped him in," she began, voice firm but eyes soft. "I want to find him." Her manager raised a brow. "Raina, do you know how many kids sneak into shows?" "This one didn't sneak," she replied. "He was helped by a security guard. A big guy, kind eyes. I want to know who he is." A few calls later, Tyrone was identified. When his phone rang, he didn't expect what came next. "Mr. Tyrone Bennett?" a voice asked. "Miss Steele would like to speak with you." "Who?" "Raina Steele." Tyrone froze. "Wait, the Raina Steele?" "Yes. Are you available to meet her today?" He thought it was a prank. But within the hour, Tyrone was escorted to a private studio lounge. When Raina walked in, she smiled the way only someone truly grateful could. "You didn't have to do what you did," she said. "I didn't expect anyone to notice," Tyrone replied, feeling strangely nervous. "Well, I did. And so did that boy. And I think that deserves something." Tyrone blinked. "Something?" She nodded. "A thank you. And a favor. I want to do something for that kid." Tyrone didn't know what to say. He'd worked jobs like this his whole life, kept his head down, did the right thing, and never expected recognition. But now here he was, sitting across from one of the biggest stars in the country, and she was offering something more. "I want to find the kid," Raina said firmly. "Do you know his name?" "Jalen," Tyrone replied, still processing. "That's all I got. Just Jalen." Said his sister works a lot, and they didn't have the money for tickets. Raina leaned back in her chair, thoughtful. "Then we'll find him." Her team moved quickly. Within 24 hours, local schools, youth shelters, and social service programs were contacted. A photo of Raina holding a handwritten sign that read, "Looking for Jalen. You made my concert unforgettable. Please reach out," went viral. People were sharing the story everywhere. Hashtag Find Jalen trended within hours. The world was moved by the idea that someone, a security guard with a soft heart, bent the rules for the right reasons, and that a superstar wanted to thank a kid who just wanted to hear her sing. It didn't take long. Jalen's older sister saw the message on her break at work. She stared at the phone in disbelief, then rushed home to show Jalen. "Is this you?" she asked, holding the screen up. Jalen's eyes went wide. "That's her. That's Raina. She's talking about me." The next morning, a black SUV pulled up to the small apartment where they lived. Raina didn't send her assistant. She came herself. Jalen opened the door and just stood there, mouth open, heart pounding like a drum. Raina smiled and knelt down. "Hey, superstar." Jalen blinked. "Are you real?" She laughed. "Very real." Behind her, Tyrone stepped forward, a familiar and comforting presence. "Told you to remember the music," he said with a grin. Jalen launched himself at Tyrone, hugging him tightly. "I didn't tell anyone. I promise." "It's okay, little man," Tyrone chuckled. "You're the reason we're here." Raina looked around the apartment, small, clean, a little worn down, and then turned to the sister. "Can I borrow Jalen for a day? I have a surprise." She hesitated. "Where are you taking him?" "To the studio. I want him to see where the music comes from." Jalen's eyes lit up. His sister nodded. That day was a whirlwind. Raina brought Jalen into her world, a world of microphones, guitars, lyrics scribbled on whiteboards, and people who believed in dreams. She showed him how songs are made, how beats are born, and how stories turn into music. Then she did something no one expected. She recorded a brand new track with Jalen's voice in it. He didn't sing much, just a few lines, a small harmony, but it was his. And when they played it back, and he heard himself in the speakers alongside Raina's voice, he started to cry. No words, just silent tears rolling down his cheeks. "You've got something, Jalen," Raina said gently, "and I want the world to hear it." The song was called Little Light, inspired by Jalen, by Tyrone, by moments that seem small but change lives. When it dropped a week later, it wasn't just another hit. It was a movement. Proceeds from the song were donated to support underprivileged kids who couldn't afford concert tickets, music lessons, or instruments. The program was called Jalen's Pass, a tribute to one kid who stood outside a concert and believed just hard enough. Tyrone didn't want the spotlight. He kept working his job, but every once in a while, someone would recognize him and say, "Hey, aren't you the guy who helped that kid?" He'd smile and nod. "Yeah, that was me," but it didn't end there. Raina brought Jalen and his sister to every city she toured in after that. They were VIP guests, always front row, always taken care of. Jalen got music lessons. His sister got support. And Tyrone, he became part of the team. Security guard turned personal bodyguard. Trusted, valued. All because he chose kindness. All because he didn't ignore the boy at the gate. Months passed. The song climbed charts. Jalen's story was shared on talk shows, news outlets, even classroom discussions. People around the world were reminded what compassion looked like, not in grand gestures, but in quiet moments when no one's watching. At an award show months later, when Raina won Song of the Year, she walked onto the stage in a stunning black dress, holding the golden statue with trembling hands. "I wrote this song for a boy who reminded me why I started singing," she said, "and for a man who reminded me that some heroes don't wear capes. They wear security jackets." Cameras cut to Tyrone in the audience, eyes shining, head bowed. Jalen beside him, wearing a tiny tux and clapping like his heart might explode. The world stood still, because a man with a job chose to follow his heart. Weeks passed, and things began to settle. But for Jalen, everything had changed. He wasn't just a kid anymore. Not in his mind, not in his heart. That day at the concert, the melody, the lights, the kindness of a stranger, it had awakened something deep inside him. He started writing songs. Just little verses at first, some about his mom, some about his neighborhood, and a few about that magical night under the stars when everything began. His sister caught him humming into a hairbrush one day, pretending it was a microphone. "You practicing for the Grammys already?" she teased. Jalen grinned, but didn't say no. And Tyrone, well, life gave him something he never expected. Purpose. The kind that fills your chest with pride and keeps your feet steady no matter what storms roll in. He was still quiet, still humble, but his presence had become more than a job. He was now a guardian, a mentor, and in many ways, family. Raina would often say, "You saved 2 lives that night, not just the kids, but mine too. You reminded me why I sing." And maybe that was true, because behind all the glamour, the awards, the flashing cameras, Raina had almost forgotten the little girl who used to sit by the radio and dream of changing the world with her voice. It was Jalen's awe, Tyrone's kindness that brought her back to center. But the world wasn't done watching. Months after the viral concert, a major documentary company reached out. They wanted to tell the full story, not of fame, but of faith, of a little boy who dared to hope, a security guard who acted from the heart, and a star who remembered her roots. It was called The Pass, named after the moment Tyrone stepped aside, not for fame, not for attention, but for love. The film premiered at a major festival and brought the entire theater to its feet. Critics called it a soul-touching masterpiece of real human connection. And across the world, thousands of schools, youth groups, and nonprofits began using The Pass as an educational tool. They taught students about empathy, integrity, and the value of seeing the person beyond the rules. Jalen started visiting schools too, standing up in front of classrooms with a shy smile, saying, "You don't have to be famous to matter. You just have to be real." And that stuck. One chilly morning, Jalen and Tyrone sat together on a bench overlooking the city. The sun was rising, and the sky glowed orange. Jalen held a notebook in his hand, always writing these days. "You ever think about what would have happened if you didn't let me in?" he asked quietly. Tyrone smiled, squinting into the light. "Every day." Jalen looked down. "You could have lost your job." "I could have," Tyrone agreed. "But I didn't lose myself. And that's more important." Jalen was quiet for a moment, then said, "I want to help kids like me, the ones who feel invisible." Tyrone chuckled. "You already are." And he was right, because now there was a scholarship in Jalen's name. A yearly music camp funded by Raina's label. And kids from all walks of life, the ones whose dreams were too quiet to be heard, were now learning to play instruments, write lyrics, and step into the spotlight they were born to claim. One night, at a benefit concert in Los Angeles, the crowd went silent as the lights dimmed. Raina took the stage, holding a mic, but she wasn't alone. Jalen stood beside her, taller now, voice steady. "This next song," she said, "was written by someone very special. He knows what it feels like to be on the outside looking in, but he also knows what it feels like to be seen." The spotlight shifted, and as the first notes of the piano echoed through the hall, Jalen began to sing. His voice, not perfect but raw, honest, and full of heart, filled the room. And somewhere in the front row, Tyrone stood silently, not clapping, not cheering, just watching, eyes misty, heart full. This wasn't just a performance. It was a promise. That kindness creates echoes. That even a moment can change a lifetime. That one act of compassion, letting a kid through a gate, could ripple into the world like music from a stage, touching people you may never meet. And in that moment, with the lights dancing across the crowd and Jalen's voice soaring into the sky, the world remembered something it often forgets. The real stars? They don't always hold microphones. Sometimes they just hold the door open,